Hey, today I'm here with Shannon from Xeropulse. So, how are you doing?
Grand, how's yourself?
Let's talk about Xeropulse. Why and how did you start the project?
When it started, it was actually, I think, 2015 that I started making the music for it. And I wanted it to be dubstep, which is why I tried to name it like that, because I was looking for something that was like electronic music-y.
Yeah, right.
And
Pulse.
yeah, so it wound up instead of that being like black metal, black metal, jazz, basically everything except dubstep.
Yeah,
That's the one genre I've not been able to make anything for so far.
you do basically everything by yourself. Why did you come to that lineup, I guess you would say?
Basically, I could just never find anybody to actually form a band with for that. So I had a couple of features from other people, but they had full-time band commitments.
Right.
So it was just it kind of went long enough with just me. So I kind of just kept it that way. There's no creative uh, clashing, I guess.
Right, exactly. Like you said, if you want to do something jazz, it's all right. If you want to do
Yeah,
something black metal, sure, why not?
yeah. Or jazzy black metal.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Sometimes it feels like, oh yeah, this is a natural progression to the next thing. And the rest of the time it's completely sporadic. Like it could just be technical death metal one day, and then the next day I'm like, hmm, ambient electronic. There's like no connection between the two. And the next day I'm going off and just doing like the jazz thing.
In your later releases, you drift more away from metal. I guess when you started, I felt like there was more metal.
Um, Metal is a lot harder to make. So
Right.
since I'm kind of tossing the new stuff together in my spare time, kind of between working on with stuff with my other bands, it's kind of like it just ends up being I'm doing so much metal elsewhere that I kind of get all the creative stuff out there. And then anything I do metal in my spare time, I never get it finished.
What would you say are your main influences?
Besides everything. um, hmm. As far as black metal goes, it's basically just Dark Throne. I just
Right.
really like
I
Dark
love
Throne.
Dark Throne.
Yeah. And Behemoth. Those two
Right.
for kind of the black metal, death metal stuff. Um, for industrial, it's mainly um, Nine Inch Nails that I would kind of pull from in there. And then like a bunch of just like listening through the Spotify playlists. So
Right.
I just kind of hear something like Three Teeth might pop up and I'm like, I like the sound of that, not knowing what band it is. And I'll just
Right,
kind of
right.
copy the random sounds I hear. So I don't have any particular influences. It's just kind of whatever my brain absorbs in passive listening.
Yeah, and what about like in terms of jazz?
Um, Ken's Ken Stanton Quartet. I can never remember their names because it's people's names, and I'm bad with
Sure.
people's names.
Yeah, I think
But
with jazz in particular, there's a lot of this name culture, right? You gotta know the
yeah,
names.
yeah, it's always the name of the band leader, and then
Exactly.
and and the flautists or whatever. Like one of my big influences is Nate Smith, who's a drummer and composer. Absolutely genius musician.
So have I got your reasons for your phone calls and smiles?
their compilation Unforgotten. There was a
Yeah.
song that really stood out. Our Friends Electric, I think that's called. I really like that song. Tell me about the process of it.
It's a Gary Newman cover, so I actually didn't write that one. The way he put it after he did an interview, it's about robot prostitutes apparently, and nobody knew that until the 90s, even though he did it on live, like they performed it live on daytime television in the 70s, and that was the song that like rocketed him into
Right.
fame. But yeah, it's about robot prostitutes, and I didn't know it until after I recorded the cover.
All right.
But I was listening to it. He did like 3 different versions of it, and one of them was a bit more electronic. So I was like, what if we pull it the other way and calm it down a bit?
Right.
And so then did like the ambient jazz version of it, and I was like,
Do you have any plans for that project?
At the moment, not really. I have one, well, I have a lot of things that are half finished. So, but there's one particular album that's a bunch of like kind of 80s film soundtrack inspired stuff.
Right.
And I've got it finished. It's massive. It's like over an hour long. And one track alone is 20
Oh,
minutes. So it's like a mini film soundtrack.
right.
But I still need to make the artwork for it, and I'm thinking about doing that in Blender, but I have to wait until the summer to have the free time to work on a model that big.
Right.
But
Cool.
yeah, that one will be a really cool one. And then I think after that, I kind of want to get more into working with other musicians and getting metal out again.
Let's talk about Aborted Earth. You're the guitarist.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the like. How did you start the band, or did you start the band?
It was actually the vocalist that started the band. I think he
Right.
got himself, the guitarist from Horrenda, and then I forget who the other lad was that they had at the time, but they had somebody doing like drum programming and guitars originally. The
Right.
guy wrote like 10 tracks and then went, never mind, I don't have time for this, and fecked off. So the guitarist from Horrenda then was like, here, I know somebody who can program drums and play guitar. We'll bring them in. So I got invited in. They were like, all right, so are you able to write music? And I was like, yeah, give me 2 minutes. So I went away and like in I think within 2 days I had the first EP written and all the guitars and drums done. And they were like, all right, you're just writing the songs from now on. That's your job. And I was
Oh,
like, okay.
nice. Nice. I see that your band on Encyclopedia Metal or whatever it's called. It's
Oh
categorized
yeah.
as grindcore. I feel like
Yeah.
it takes way more influences than that. Well, yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what could you say
We
about that?
Yeah, actually, one of our albums is called Grindcore Allegedly, or sorry, EPs. It's called Grindcore Allegedly,
Right,
with allegedly in brackets,
right.
because there was one of the kind of the indie metal magazines that goes out online. Uh, they were putting out like newest underground releases of the year or whatever, and they were putting the genre next to it, and they put Grindcore Allegedly because they were like,
Oh,
this doesn't sound like Grindcore. And
exactly.
we were like, perfect. That's an album title.
They probably just saw it like on Bandcamp or something
Mhm.
like the
Yeah,
hashtag.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah. And they were like, yeah, this isn't grindcore, but if they want to be called that, whatever.
right.
But yeah, it's kind of like grindcore death metal. Um, 80s new wave pop, thrash metal. We have some stuff in the works that's got a bit of glam metal thrown in.
Maybe I'd say industrial and some.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
industrial as well. Yeah, yeah.
I heard your last album. There were a lot of like industrial and electronic stuff, and maybe
Yeah,
even
yeah.
new metal. I would say maybe.
A little bit, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah. Is that the roads you're aiming for, or do you have
I
any
th
other?
I think that was actually the outlier one. The
Right.
with the kind of the new metal and the industrial was kind of an outlier. I think we'd more go for kind of the death metal mixed with 80s stuff route.
Right.
And then it ends up somewhere around grindcore, but not really.
Personally, I wouldn't say it's like grindcore. At least
Yeah, no,
for like today's standards, it's
no.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not at all. Which is something that the vocalist kind of was not annoyed about, but just kind of like, here, lads, if we're calling ourselves a grindcore band, we need to pull back into that. So he's
Right.
actually he he went and bought a guitar and he's actually started remembering how to play. So
Right.
he's actually written 2 full albums now as well that are kind of waiting to be finished. So we have, I think, 3 albums that are almost done,
Right.
and 2 of them are just pure old school, like late 80s grindcore. The way he's written them, it's pure like crust punk, but more aggressive. So just literally old school Napalm Death, like
Exactly. Yeah, I was
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about that.
So they're very, very different from the stuff we've been releasing. Yeah.
I also saw your music video. You're not free. I think that's
Mm.
not grindcore at all.
No, no, that one was completely
It was completely different.
yeah, that one was us completely going, how far can we push this before people get mad? So
Exactly.
like the vocalist even wrote a full-on pop song, like a pop ballad.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, this is not going on the album. That is too far.
I don't know if this is right, but my interpretation is that's about the big C.
Yeah, it's kind of about that in the way that the government was treating people, acting like it's all our fault, and like
Right.
even though they were completely mishandling the situation as well. And then they were like, "Oh no, you're free to do whatever you want, but at the same time, you can't do anything, or you're a bad person." I was like, "Okay, thanks."
Open your eyes, count to 10. This is your fault, it's all in your head. Open your eyes, count to 10. This is your fault, it's all in your head.
In terms of lyrics, what do you usually write about?
I'm not the one who writes the lyrics because I'm really bad at lyrics,
Right.
but the vocalist kind of handles that job, and I think he generally keeps it like either political or he puts it into like joke ones. So like on the album that we're finishing up, like the upcoming album, one of the songs is just about like a dude who tries to or it's about bestiality. A guy tries to get with a horse
All right.
and ends up on the other end of it. Just
Okay.
because he had the idea of what if we make a really gross song about getting screwed by an animal.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And it was like, okay. But then another one, like one of the songs on Grindcore Allegedly was calling out a label that we tried to be on a compilation. They were doing a Dead Kennedys thing.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, he was asking for a million changes and asking for it to be super polished. And we were like, this is DIY grindcore. And you want it to be perfectly squeaky clean. And then he was being an asshole and everything. So we have a song about that. The rest of it's then just political, like Al Gore. We hate Al Gore.
Right.
You're Not Free is about the government during the past 2-3 years.
Right.
Yeah, so mostly political with a few jokes thrown in.
You were dead. You fought like a beast in those rays ahead. You didn't talk the fuck. I didn't talk the fuck. You talk. You walk. It's all I need right now. You talk the fuck.
What are your plans for the future with your bands?
Well, for Aborted Earth, we kind of want to really go headfirst into the gigging. I'm just finishing up university this year, so starting in like June or July, we're going to be going really hard into the gigging, kind of going over to Scotland, England, Wales, doing a lot of gigs in the north, and hopefully getting over. I think the vocalist said he knows a few people in Italy that are promoters, so
Right.
we might actually be going over that way as well. He wants to go to Germany because his last band did, and it was like the gigs they had there were great.
Right.
So that's a big thing with Aborted Earth anyway. And for Xeropulse, it's mainly just keep recording.
So you can go ahead and shout out anything you want.
I have I'm in a new band
Right.
based here in Cork. It's a punkish band. We kind of also have a little bit of crossover thrash, dance music, and skate punk and kind of stuff. But it's called RPC, which stands for Radioactive Puppies of Chernobyl.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, so that's a fun one. We've got the first EP recorded. We're actually starting tomorrow evening. Actually, we're recording the drums for the second EP. So
Alright.
those will be coming out in the next couple months, I think.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing that.
Have a look for them.
All right. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
All right. Thanks for having me.